This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Welcome to Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith, and today I am sitting on the Rainbow Warrior 3. This is absolutely awesome. I'm here with the campaign manager, Malcolm Wren. Thank you so much for talking with us today. And I have to say, I'm feeling a little starstruck, a little giddy. The Rainbow Warrior has such an amazing history, and if you've followed it over the decades, you know, it's for me personally, this is just awesome to be sitting on this ship right now.
Yeah, well, welcome aboard, Eric. It's great to have you here, and I certainly know the emotions that you talk about, and I've felt it myself. It is a ship of great history, and having achieved a lot of great things in its time.
Speaking of that history, I think some of our listeners may be either unaware or perhaps too young to remember some of the earlier incarnations of the Rainbow Warrior. I wonder if you could walk us through that real quick, including the original Rainbow Warrior and its rather tragic history.
Yeah, sure. Look, the first Rainbow Warrior came into Greenpeace life in 1977. It was an old fishing boat that a group of volunteers at the time managed to scrape together enough money through charity benefits and a few donations and probably a bit of savings of their own, and bought and converted into use for Greenpeace. It was used over the next 8 years to confront everything from whaling ships all over the world to fishing grounds all over the world to dumping of nuclear waste at sea, and particularly famous for protesting against nuclear testing in the Pacific. And in 1985, after a mission to the Marshall Islands and into an island called Rongelap in particular, where it was evacuating people that were victims of US nuclear testing in the 1950s, their home was basically contaminated, and evacuated them to a new place to live.
Is that island still contaminated?
They are just about starting to go back
Wow.
there now. It's there's a bit of controversy as to whether it's a good thing to go back or not, but of course it's their home, and it's been their home for hundreds of years. So the elders are very keen to go home. The younger people aren't so sure it's a good idea, but slowly but surely they're sort of going back there and trying to create a livelihood again. It's certainly one of the sort of not so heard about impacts of nuclear testing.
So after the Americans did their damage, then came the French.
Yeah, and they moved into a place around French Polynesia and particularly Mururoa Atoll, where they had been testing for some time. They did a lot of atmospheric tests initially, the big bombs in the air, before moving their tests underground. And in 1985 they had a series of tests planned in underground testing that Greenpeace was going to go out and bear witness to and to try and confront and stop. On the way to do that, they pulled into Auckland Harbour and to resupply and pick up volunteers and campaigners before heading out. And a few days later, a bomb exploded on the hull of the Rainbow Warrior, sinking the ship and killing our photographer Fernando Pereira in a really tragic episode.
And later this incident was traced back to French secret agents.
That's right. The Secret Service from as part of the French government had been sent and had infiltrated the local Greenpeace office. It was a very open office, very welcoming, and they infiltrated it, found out as much information as they could, and divers went along one night and stuck a couple of bombs on the side of it that exploded sort of just before midnight.
And in the end, did the French ever apologize, compensate? What was the result?
Yeah, look, there was a range of results. The Secret Service were remarkably easily found out to be responsible for it, and two people that were caught from it were sentenced to some jail time that they served on a lovely French island before being released early, just a few years later.
I see.
There was certainly some ramifications back in France, and the defence minister had to resign, and there was certainly a big compensation payout. I'm not sure that there was ever an apology as such. So,
but perhaps the biggest fallout, if I can use the term, was just it gave a lot of awareness to the cause, and sort of, in some ways, it brought about good. if you can say that, out of a tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly take the point, and it was really a turning point in Greenpeace's history. It went from being an organisation that was sort of seen to be from its origins of hippiedom, if you like,
right,
and all of a sudden made kind of people aware that there was a big enough problem that a French government would
bother to do this.
To do
exactly.
this, yeah. I think it bemused a lot of people, and all of a sudden, people that didn't necessarily spoke up at their outrage of the actions of the French government. And for Greenpeace, it meant a lot more support and attention. It said that basically their ways of working in terms of going out and being at the point of these problems was a worthy thing to do, and that there were a lot of people behind them. And in many ways, really, it was the beginning of the end of nuclear testing. What we saw rapidly after that was a steep decline in the amount of tests, and in 1995, the second Rainbow Warrior that was bought from the proceeds of the compensation sailed back to Muraroa when the French decided that they wanted to test again, and this time when they arrived, again they'd sailed into the test zone to stop the test, but this time there were millions of people all around the world that rose up in outcry, and we saw massive protests on the streets and boycotts of French products.
So here we have a story of kind of proving that it is possible to make a difference, for one little fishing boat to make a difference in the world. Absolutely,
and I think I've talked to a number of crew members that were on board that day, and in fact that was one of the things that they took from it, is that, if someone would go to all of this trouble to send a national secret service down into a foreign country and bomb a ship, kill somebody, they must be having an impact.
Yeah.
And as much as they lost a very dear friend that they'd been sailing with, they took an incredible resolve out of that, and the campaigns that Greenpeace took went to a whole nother scale again.
Greenpeace's Rainbow Warrior will be stopping by Tainan's Anping Harbor this coming weekend. Reporting for ICRT's Taiwan Talk, I'm Eric Smith.
This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Thanks for tuning into Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith, and today we're back with Greenpeace's Malcolm Wren as we continue an interview from the deck of the group's flagship, the Rainbow Warrior. So here we are on the third incarnation of the Rainbow Warrior, and this ship is a marvel of environmental design and shipbuilding engineering.
Yeah, that's right. This is the first time that Greenpeace has been able to purpose build a ship, done entirely through the donations of individuals from around the world. Literally thousands and thousands of people donating a few dollars here and a few dollars there enabled us to build this ship. And it's been built with its mission in mind, in terms of travelling the world and going out to bear witness or confront environmental crime.
Speaking of confront, do you guys still do that? Do you still get in front of whaling ships? That aggressive element, is that still a part of Greenpeace's actions?
Yeah, look, I think it's a proactive element, and certainly, absolutely. You may have seen actions over the last year, non-violent direct actions, which have been confronting the oil industry and their relentless march into the Arctic. It focused a lot of people's attention, and over the next 18 months, while we've continued that campaign of public awareness and education, over 3 million people have joined the campaign to save the Arctic.
And we're actually sitting right now underneath a canopy that is a sail. It's a metal ship. I mean, it's about the size of, perhaps a small ferry or a large yacht, but you have actual good old-fashioned sails on this ship.
Yeah, so one of the features that we were most keen on was to be able to reduce our fossil fuel use on board the ship. This ship here has a capability of spending most of its time sailing, and so not only do we design its routes and its itineraries to be able to take advantage of the prevailing winds, the actual design of the ship has used a lot of technological advances to be able to do that even more so. So
you were saying you have three options. You have the wind, then you have like a small hybrid engine that could help push a little bit.
That's right, and we're using the sails and the smaller engine. We'll say the sails most of the time whenever we can, and the sails and engine combined probably up to sort of 80 to 90% of the time.
Nice.
So it's only in the worst weather that we're really using the main diesel engines that most boats would have.
All right, so you guys are here in Geelong, Taiwan.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Well, the Rainbow Warriors come to work with our local office here, and the theme of our tour is A Better Future Together. So we've come here to basically talk about not just one campaign, but all of the work that we do, which is all about the world that we want to live in the future, the world that we want our children and their children to inherit. And the way that we're going to get there is by as many people, as many organisations and governments and decision makers working together towards that goal.
And we were talking earlier about a problem that I think many people face, and that is this sort of feeling of helplessness. Yesterday I saw an article that said by 2040 New York and Miami will be underwater, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you're tempted to just sort of throw your hands up in the air and say, well, forget it. Well, I might as well just turn on the aircon and enjoy my final days, How do you get through to a person like me who feels this way too often?
I certainly understand the dynamic that you're talking about. A lot of media stories are best sold with sensational headlines and bad news. There's no doubt about that. And I guess what we want to do is come here and talk about the good news. And I think so we want to use whatever means that we can to be able to say, look, there is hope. There is a way of doing things. The solutions that we have are now at hand. And indeed, I think in terms of the history of the world, we're kind of in a place right now where we can actually reach out to those technological solutions. It just means that we need to make a decision to embrace them. The other thing that we want to do while here in Taiwan is to talk to people about the role that they can play in it, because we all have an incredible amount of power.
Just through choices.
Through choices that we make. And those choices might be choices as consumers. So there's certainly a trend of what you might call consumer action that's been becoming more and more evident, and has played major roles in forcing plastics manufacturers to use less toxic chemicals, and for energy providers to provide more renewable options, and for forestry products companies to be able to not use rainforests. And a lot of that has become because millions of people around the world have together said, we want to do it a different way, and that's a really important thing that we're trying to sort of communicate today, is their role as consumers. The other really important way that people have power is as citizens. I think one thing that our leaders need to hear is that we want to do things differently, and I think people have an incredible amount of power as voters and as constituents. In places like Taiwan, where there is a democracy and you can reach out and express your voice, sometimes that feels like it's not being listened to, but I think the history of social change and the way that things have been improved for the better shows again and again that if you keep on talking, eventually people are going to listen.
Thanks again for listening to Taiwan Talk. All of our episodes are available as podcasts on iTunes or the ICRT website. Reporting for ICRT, I'm Eric Smith.